The dusk settled over Calico Springs like a funeral shroud, dust clouds curling down the empty streets as though the ground itself breathed out secrets. Folks didn't talk much about the town's past. They didn't need to. Silence hung heavier than church bells, and the walls carried stories no man dared to tell. Samuel Boone rode in that evening on a tired horse with ribs showing through hide, his hat pulled low and his eyes weary yet sharp, eyes that had seen gun smoke, betrayal, and blood spilled across more plains than he cared to count. He wasn't here for redemption. He wasn't here for comfort. He was here to disappear. But fate doesn't let a man vanish, not out in the West, not where the land remembers everything. They pointed him toward the old orphanage at the edge of town, a crumbling mission-style building with boarded windows that looked like blind eyes, a bell tower without a bell, and weeds swallowing the yard. "Ain't worth much," the sheriff muttered, shrugging. "But if you got the coin, it's yours. Nobody'll contest it. Folks don't go near. Bad stories tied to that place." Boone didn't ask about the stories. He put his name on the deed, and the orphanage was his. That first night, the place breathed around him. The air felt too thick, like the walls themselves held their breath. Strange carvings were etched into the beams above the hearth, symbols he couldn't place but which sent a shiver crawling his spine. The wind slipped through cracks, carrying voices too soft to make out, like children whispering in another room. Boone set his revolver on the nightstand and tried to sleep, though he didn't. Come morning, he walked the grounds. Weeds clawed high where children once played. A broken swing swayed though the air was still. Out back, half hidden beneath scrub, lay a graveyard, weathered wooden crosses with names long faded. Boone counted 13, yet the county records had mentioned only 10 children buried here. On the third day, Boone found the cellar door under the kitchen. The lock was rusted, eaten by time, but claw marks scoured the wood around it, not from anyone trying to force their way inside, but from someone or something desperate to get out. The sun beat down hot, but Boone felt the chill of winter in his bones. He went into the saloon that evening, nursing a whiskey and asking questions. The piano fell silent, cards stopped shuffling. A rancher cleared his throat and muttered, "Best leave it, stranger." Some places are meant to stay buried. Another spat tobacco in a can. Them kids, they weren't right, not after what they saw. What did they see? Boone pressed. No one answered. Men stood, one by one, slipping out the doors, leaving him alone with silence. That night, Boone heard footsteps above his room. Slow, deliberate, heavy, but the orphanage had no second floor. His hand went to his Colt. He climbed the stairs, lantern in hand. Dust covered the rafters, yet the dust was disturbed. Fresh footprints across beams no man could have walked. Boone dug deeper. The county records spoke of Elijah Ward, the preacher who ran the orphanage 2 decades past. Folks said he was strict but fair, until the winter when children began dying, one by one, from an illness no doctor could name. The last child, a 12-year-old boy, vanished into the night. Ward himself disappeared soon after, but hidden in the courthouse archives, Boone found deeds transferring land to Ward. Land that once belonged to grieving families who had lost their children under his care. The orphanage wasn't salvation, it was a trap. Boone's blood ran colder with each page he turned. The building felt tighter around him, pressing, urging him to open the cellar door. On the 6th night, he broke the lock. The stench of rot and damp, earth clawed his throat. He struck a match. The walls glowed with scratched words, please carved by children's hands. Save us, help, he's coming. Over and over, one phrase repeated like a curse. Bones scattered across the dirt. Small bones, but not all of them small. Among them lay the rotted remains of a preacher's collar. And cut deep into the stone floor, dark grooves formed a circle of symbols, the same ones above the hearth. Not random scratches, a ritual. Behind him, the door slammed shut. The match burned low, darkness pressed close. Then came the voices, children whispering, crying, laughing. Some prayed in words he couldn't understand. The cellar pulsed with sound, alive with sorrow. When Boone forced the door open at dawn, his hands were black with soot though he had touched no flame. On the walls, new words were scrawled fresh and wet. We are still here. He stormed into the sheriff's office. You knew, Boone accused. You all knew. The sheriff's face drained pale. We knew enough to stay away. That place is marked, Boone. You should have never set foot in it. Then why sell it to me? Boone snapped. The sheriff's eyes fell to the desk. Because you asked, and some burdens need new shoulders. Boone clenched his fists. He was not the kind of man to turn tail. Something bound those children, something Ward had conjured. Boone couldn't ride off knowing their souls were chained. That night he returned with a lantern in one hand, a Bible in the other, though he was no praying man. Down in the cellar, the carvings writhed in the flickering light, twisting like snakes. Boone began to read, voice rough but steady. The children's whispers rose into shrieks. Laughter, sobs, chants, madness filled the stone chamber. A sound scraped the floor. From the circle, a shadow rose, crooked and tall, with ember eyes. Its face, Ward's, twisted, grinning, monstrous. "You cannot undo what I began," it rasped, voice echoing like canyon wind. "These children are mine." Boone lifted the lantern. Not anymore. He smashed it against the stone. Fire exploded, racing along the carvings. Flames licked the walls. Screams filled the air, not just of children, but of Ward himself, a howl that split the night. When dawn came, the cellar was ash. Bones lay still. Boone carried them one by one to the graveyard, carving names where he could, crosses for the forgotten. 13 graves now stood tall, honored. But one grave remained empty, the boy who had vanished. Weeks passed. The orphanage stayed silent, no voices in the rafters, no whispers through the halls. Boone believed it was over. Until one night, he found a folded note slipped under his door. The handwriting was a child's. It read only, "I never left." Boone sat at his table, revolver at his side, lamp casting long shadows that stretched and twisted across the walls. Outside, the swing creaked slowly though the night was still, and Boone knew, with a dread that hollowed his chest, that some secrets are never buried. They only wait.